As a man, I don't carry the genetic code I'm about to talk about. It doesn't live in my blood the way it does for the women in my family. But I've been a witness to it my whole life. And there's a specific kind of grief that comes from standing just outside a circle of suffering when you're close enough to see everything but utterly powerless to change any of it. On the matriarchal side of my family, the women are predisposed to a terrible ailment, a disease that doesn't just take someone's life, it takes their self, long before their body follows. I've watched some of the women in my family get taken. Completely. And if you've been through this kind of thing, you know exactly what I mean when I say we had to watch them die twice. Once when they stopped recognizing us, and again when their bodies finally let go. One of my aunts passed away 10 years ago. She was, without exaggeration, the most angelic human being I have ever had the privilege of knowing and loving. She was warm and generous, and the kind of woman who made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. And she spent the last 10 years of her life in a hospital bed, clinging to a teddy bear, totally unable to recognize any of us, not even for a fleeting moment. Not once. A decade. 10 years of absence while her body remained. And that's the math this disease does on a family. And I'm telling you this because I need you to know where I'm coming from when I talk about the film Relic. This isn't a review. This isn't a film criticism. This is me sitting with something that finally put images and language to a grief I've been carrying for years. And I want to talk about it for the women in my family and for the women I know who might be scared they're next. And for all the women inheriting something they never asked for. Relic is a 2020 psychological horror film directed by Natalie Erica James. It stars 3 generations of actresses: Robin Nevin as Edna, the elderly grandmother, Emily Mortimer as Kay, her daughter, and Bella Heathcote as Sam, the granddaughter. The story is simple on the surface. Edna goes missing from her isolated, decaying family home. Kay and Sam arrive to find her, and when Edna returns, she's different. She's volatile, and she's strange, and something in the house begins to close in around them. The obvious metaphor, the one every critic and viewer latched onto, is that Relic is about dementia. The house is Edna's mind, the crumbling walls, the labyrinth corridors that shouldn't exist, the black mold spreading behind the wallpaper. It's all visual language for cognitive decay. And the film isn't trying to hide it. It's baked into every frame. And that metaphor is effective. It's why the film landed so hard for people who've lived this reality. We recognize the confusion and the aggression that comes from fear. The way a loved one can look at you and see a stranger. We recognize the locked doors and the wandering and the impossible task of keeping someone safe who no longer understands what safety is. But if Relic were just an allegory for dementia, it would be a very good horror film and not much more. What makes it extraordinary, and what has kept me thinking about it for years, is what it says about the women left behind. The daughters, the granddaughters, the ones who inherit not just the genetic predisposition, but the duty. And this is where I need to talk about something I saw in the film's climax that I haven't heard anyone else articulate. Something that, for me, reframed the entire movie. Something that made me think of my older family, of course, but also my mother, my cousins, my friends, and all the women I know who have been trained since birth to be the ones who stay and care and absorb. There is a concept the film visualizes brilliantly, even if it never says it out loud, and that is the duty of daughterhood. It's the unspoken, centuries-old expectation that when a parent declines, the daughter will be the one to step in. The son might help with finances or visit on weekends to repair a loose cupboard. The daughter is supposed to move in, and to bathe, and to feed, and to soothe, and to surrender her own life as a down payment on someone else's decline. This duty isn't biological, it's conditioning. It's a role women are handed so early they don't even remember receiving it. And Relic understands that this role is its own kind of horror. Watch Emily Mortimer's performance as Kay. Watch the way her shoulders tighten every time her mother speaks. Watch the exhaustion that lives on her face even before anything supernatural happens. This is a woman who has been bracing for this her entire adult life. She knew, on some level, that this day would eventually come. The day she would become her mother's mother. And now it's here, and there's no escape, because escaping would mean abandoning the woman who raised her. And that's a guilt the Duty of Daughterhood does not permit. There's a scene where Kay has to force her mother into a bath. Edna resists, she's confused, and Kay has to become the authority, the enforcer, or the parent. You can see it costing her something. You can see pieces of her own identity flaking away as she takes on this role she never asked for. And then there's Sam, the granddaughter, watching all of this and learning. She is inheriting not through genes, but through observation. She's seeing what will be expected of her one day. when Kay is the one wandering, when Kay is the one who doesn't recognize her. The duty passes down like a family heirloom no one wants, but everybody is obligated to keep. This is the generational debt. It's not just the disease, it's the response to the disease, the caregiving, the sacrifice, the slow erasure of self in service of someone who can no longer even say thank you. Which brings me to the climax of the film, the scene everyone talks about, the one that's been analyzed and debated and held up as the film's definitive statement. By this point, Edna has fully transformed into something the film has been hinting at all along. Her body is covered in a dark, bark-like substance. She's become a kind of living monument to the disease. And in the final moments, Kay finds her on the floor, and she begins to peel. Most readings of this scene interpret the peeling as Kay literally taking on her mother's illness. The blackness transfers from Edna's skin to Kay's hands. The stain passes down and the cycle continues. It's a visual representation of inheritance, both genetic and emotional. Kay is accepting the burden. She is absorbing the disease and becoming her mother. And I saw that. It's definitely there, and it's powerful. But I saw something else too. Something that, given what I've witnessed in my own family, felt truer and far more devastating. I saw Kay peeling away the armor. Motherhood, especially the kind of motherhood that Edna's generation knew, is a lifetime of callous building. Every sacrifice adds a layer. Every sleepless night, every worry, every time you put your children's needs so far ahead of your own, you forget what your own needs feel like. It hardens you. It has to. You build a shell to survive the work of loving people who will never fully understand what you gave up for them. Edna's body in that final scene, that dark, gnarled, bark-covered form, that's not just illness. That's the accumulated Kevlar vest of a woman who spent her life being strong for others. It's the callus of a mother, the tough, protective exterior that allowed her to do the impossible work of raising children in a world that offered no hope and no thanks. And Kay, her daughter, in that final act of love, doesn't recoil from it. She peels it away. She strips back all those layers, and what's underneath is something tender, something vulnerable, something that looks, finally, at peace. To me, that scene is not about inheritance. It's about release. Kay is giving her mother permission to finally stop being strong, to let go of the armor that was never really protection. It was just the crusted over residue of a life spent in service to everybody else. She is saying, without words, you don't have to be tough anymore. You don't have to hold it together. I see what's underneath. I see you, and you can rest now. I'm a man, and I will never fully understand what this feels like from the inside. I can only stand at the edge of it and bear witness. But I have stood there long enough to see the shape of the burden. This video is for the women in my family who carry the genetic code I don't. The ones who've watched their mothers and aunts disappear and know, statistically, what might be coming for them. I see the courage it takes to live your life with that knowledge sitting in the back of your mind, like a stone you can never swallow. This is also for the women I know personally who are in the thick of caregiving right now. The ones who are tired in a way sleep can't fix. The ones who've lost their own names and become the daughter or the granddaughter. The ones who grieve someone who's still technically alive. This is also for my aunt, the angelic one. The one with the teddy bear. I don't know if she ever felt in those 10 long years some echo of the love we were sending her. I hope something got through. I hope that when Kay peeled away Edna's armor in that film, she was peeling away something my aunt never had to carry anymore with her. I hope the tenderness underneath was all that remained. And finally, this is for anyone watching who sees themselves somewhere in Relic, who recognize that house, or who recognize that exhaustion, who recognize the black stain spreading across a life they didn't choose but can't abandon. The final shot of Relic is 3 women stacked like nesting dolls. Edna inside Kay, inside Sam. Grandmother, mother, daughter. The matriarchal line made literal. They stand there, connected, inseparable, the black stain running through all of them. It's a horror image, and it's meant to be. The cycle continues. The inheritance is unavoidable. But I've tried, in the years since my aunt died, to see something else in that image too. Not just the chain of suffering, but the chain of care. 3 women holding each other up. 3 women who, despite everything, did not abandon each other. The duty of daughterhood is a weight, and it's unfair, and it's exhausting. But it's also the most purified form. A kind of love that refuses to ever look away. My aunt didn't know us at the end. But we knew her, and we stayed. And that counts for something. It counts for everything. Relic is a horror film, but maybe, beneath the horror, it's also a love story. A dark, difficult one, but a love story. All the same.